welcome once again to Starla's Art Studio. Once again is another poses video. I still have some dynamic poses that, because the recording is a bit slower now, they didn't quite fit in the last video, so today, they're in this one. The last video had dynamic standing poses, or standing poses with dynamic angles. This video is for dynamically angled sitting poses. So a bit of a side note, but I have seen some of the people who tried the last pose sheet on Pinterest, and I have to say I was humorously surprised by the responses. Some people tried it and I was really happy that they found it helpful, and others responded that it reminded them of anime and asked if it was a JoJo reference. And there's some JoJo memes going through it, and I didn't think of that while I was making this at all, but I thought it was funny that it made people think of that. But yeah, this is also partially just to say that I really love seeing you all try and interact with the things I post there. Besides YouTube, Pinterest is where most of my followers are and come from based on my comments, so there are of course some things I miss or don't get to see when I'm busy, but that's why I like featuring your tries to my Draw This in Your Style challenges at the end of my videos. It's really cool seeing all of your art styles trying out the drawings that I post there. I might post some new ones. I post more of my tutorial images there than my drawings, so let me know if you want to see more of my regular drawings that I usually post to Instagram there too. So since this will be similar to my other poses videos, I won't be talking as much as in other tutorial videos. The recording is also slower than in other tutorial videos. Of course, for some, this might still be a bit too fast if you're drawing along with it, so if you are, feel free to mute the audio and change the playback speed with the little gear on the bottom right side of the video and slow it down to as slow as you need it. Oh, and, well, I'm not really going to be running out of types of poses to draw anytime soon, but just as a side note, you guys have been giving me some suggestions in the comments, but just if you had any extra specific videos you wanted to see, feel free to leave them in the comments so I can kind of mix it up between poses and other types of tutorial videos. Okay, so for sitting poses, because most of these involve dynamic angles, they're considered a bit more advanced than a flat 2D straight-on view. So although they can be a bit more difficult, they can add a lot to your art. So for most regular poses, you can break them down to simple shapes and draw what you see. With dynamic angles, of course you still can break them into simple shapes, there is more dimension involved. Being able to break things up into shapes is one skill, but once you understand it, you can take it a bit further to break them up into 3D shapes. It allows you to understand the form and depth of the figure as a whole. Perspective and foreshortening are also topics I've mentioned in the past. When you have characters in extreme angles, there will be parts of the art where things are smaller because they're further away from the viewer and ones that are larger because they're closer. Makes sense, right? Not hard to understand, and we can see it in life basically everywhere. But just because it sounds simple doesn't exactly mean it's easy to do. Like anyone who's ever drawn anything could totally tell you they know what things look like, but actually drawing it can be 100 times harder sometimes. But this still does kind of depend on how your brain works. I'll get to that in a minute, but basically, you would need to be able to imagine to estimate about how far certain parts should be from each other based on about what the angle is. And on top of this, being able to scale it just around the right size, because perspective, again, makes it look smaller if it's further away. Yes, a hand might end at the mid part of the thigh, but how small should it be? Well, it should shrink along with the rest of the body in a similar area. So if you notice a bit later in the recording, before or after when I finish a pose, I have a box around the character. This box represents the angle and max distance towards and away from the viewer I imagine the pose being. I had it in my head, but I also drew it so you could see one way of doing it. You can also use this box before drawing a pose if it helps you. Basically, use this as a total area to work in. The bottom of the box is for the part of the body that reaches to the ground, and the top of the box is for the part of the body that reaches the highest up. Depending on the angle of the box, the stuff further away, further down, or further up will be smaller, and things will be larger as they get closer to the viewer. If a hand is hanging down and they're standing, like in the last poses video, then you estimate about where half of the box is to place the waist and the hand around this area of the body. So I also mentioned 3D shapes and how imagining them in their forms can help form different poses, like being able to see the form in your mind and at different angles and drawing them from your mind and references. But from the mind specifically, I mentioned how this might be easier for some because of how their brains work. I want to make a video that goes more in depth into this, but basically, some people don't really imagine things very clearly in their head and thus need to rely more on what they see, or on the opposite side they have like photographic memories and can see it once and remember exactly what it looks like if they wanted to. Some prefer to see things mathematically and want to use rulers and match things up perfectly to scale, and others just want loose, flowy gesture drawings, which is kind of basically to say one way won't perfectly work for you. But if what I mostly explain here being breaking it up into shapes, learning how to progress more and more into detail and form and 3D shapes is helpful to you, then that's definitely one way for you to get better and better at drawing poses. So a few more tips I have specifically for these sitting poses include how, in a way, they're similar to the standing poses. The character is still having their weight supported to keep them up, but instead of just their legs, you've got their arms and bum. Of course, their bum or feet are usually supporting most of the weight, depending on the pose. Their legs and arms often just help them keep their balance and support a bit of weight. When drawing poses like these, just keep in mind which part of the character is holding the weight and what part they might lean on for balance or weight distribution. Well, I'm pretty sure that's it for now. If you have any extra questions, feel free to comment them below, and the rest will just be music until the end. Alrighty, here's a finished set of sitting dynamic poses, or sitting dynamically angled poses. I hope you enjoyed this video and found something helpful in it. I will be posting this set to Pinterest and my tutorial account on Instagram soon after this video goes up, so be on the lookout for that. Other than that, there have been quite a few things going on. If you saw my community tab or follow me on Twitter and Instagram, then you might have noticed that commissions are now available. I've been pretty busy, so slots are somewhat limited, but I'm excited about them. I've done a couple commissions already, and they've been great, so I'd be happy to work with anyone else who'd like a commission. Feel free to submit a request in the form that I'll have in the description below. I also have them available on my Etsy if anyone finds that easier. Oh, and speaking of Etsy, for anyone who doesn't know, I have stickers. I sell them on both Ko-fi and Etsy. Even more of them are now scented due to a fun poll for which fresh fashion girl would become the next scented girl. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter to see all of my recent art and to be part of the next polls and activities and other stuff I like to do with you guys there. A lot of the art that I draw that doesn't really get into videos gets posted there, especially on Instagram. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video and got something helpful from it. And I hope you have a stellar day. Bye!